Good afternoon, guys. Crypto Jarhead here. Finally get back to doing what I personally love to do, and that's just crunch numbers. Um, for those of you who've been following me for a while, I'm a bit of a math nerd. It's just what I like to do. So today I want to talk about the WGT token and how to calculate your returns on your investment. Now, I do want to get this out of the way. It is 100% impossible to accurately predict what your return is going to be, simply because nobody knows how much revenue is going to be generated. However, Coin.lotto by itself is a very ambitious project, and then everything else that World Gaming Technologies is adding on top of Coin.lotto, it's going to be a big revenue maker. You know, they're doing the online casino, they're doing the sports betting, the bingo, all of that, all that kind of stuff. Card games, stuff like that, your poker games, all of that will be generating revenue for the company, and the WGT token is a way to invest in the company. It's honestly a lot less like cryptocurrency and a lot more like traditional stocks with high dividends. Because there are some, if you play on the stock market, there are some stocks that you buy because you think it's going to appreciate in value, and then there's some stocks that you buy because they typically pay very high dividends to their investors, their stockholders. So that's really how I look at the WGT token, is less of like a cryptocurrency and more like a high dividend stock. But make no mistake, it is a cryptocurrency. So anybody can buy it. You don't have to be some pedicured Wall Street broker to be able to access it. Even you and me, average Joes, can get in on the action. So with that being said, get that out of the way. It is possible to make educated guesses about your return. So why would you do that if you can't 100% accurately predict? Because you can get pretty close. You can, take your however many you decide to buy, and you can run a few different scenarios, so you kind of know if the company produces X amount of revenue. You'll already have done some benchmark calculations, so you'll kind of know just at a glance real quick what you're going to get back the following month. So all that out of the way, without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. So there's 3 simple steps to take here. The first one is you got to buy the tokens, man. You can't get a return on your investment if you don't invest. Now, with that being said, I do know of a way for you to get free WGT tokens, but it's not quite ready to be unveiled yet. I will have a video on that at a later date once it's been set up. So that's really all I can say. But there is a way with this company to work for the company, and what you can do is you can take some of your pay from the company, and buy some tokens. So it doesn't cost you anything to do this, just a little bit of your time, and you can take some of the income that you earn from that and invest into the company if you want, or you can just keep it in your pocket, whatever, it's up to you. But it's not quite ready yet, so for now, you're going to have to buy. Luckily, they're a penny a piece, so, they're affordable. You can buy, spend $5 and get 500 of them and just speculate on the token price if that's your game. It's a pretty cheap little buy-in to get 500 of these tokens that who knows where the price is going to go. If that's one of the things that you do, or if you're, buying for the dividends like I am, invest a little bit more in anticipation of the dividends. So got that out of the way. You've got your tokens. So now what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to calculate your percent of stake. This is also something that we can't 100% accurately do at the moment because World Gaming Technologies isn't releasing exactly how many tokens have been sold yet. I have heard through the grapevine that you will be able to look at that. You could possibly go on Etherscan and enter in the contract address to get an idea of how much are sitting in people's wallets. But that's not going to be 100% accurate because there are going to be some on the website, not back in personal wallets. So that's not even, it'll probably give you a really good guess, a fairly accurate guess, but it's not going to be 100% accurate either. But another thing that we can do is we can watch the exchange and we can kind of just keep a tally, and I'm not going to sit and log on every single day at the same time and write down the number and add it all up. But what I have noticed, I've been watching, I've been paying attention, checking in at least every 2 or 3 days, because I already bought my tokens, so I don't really have any reason to get on there. I did leave a few tokens on the site just in case the price jumps up. Maybe go ahead and make a quick return on my investment, and I still have a bulk of tokens later, for the returns. But I don't really see that happening anytime soon. It's got a large supply to still sell. It is definitely something that could happen in the future, though. But I've noticed that it's approximately 1 million tokens are being sold per day, and that's been fairly consistent. There's been a couple days where it's a little less, a couple days where it's a little more than 1 million, but pretty good average figure, rough guess, 1 million tokens per day. And at this point, the exchange has been up for almost 2 weeks. I think 11 days. I think it went up on the 3rd, but I'd have to double check that. But it's been about 2 weeks, so a pretty good guess would probably be around 14 million tokens are out there right now. Now, calculating your percent stake today, if you've already bought, doesn't really matter what it is today, because it's going to be at least a month or two before we start seeing returns, simply because Coin.lotto is not out yet, so the company is not generating any revenue aside from what is being purchased through tokens, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for the company to return that back to the token holders. It would make much more sense. I would be much happier as an investor if they took the bit of money that they're generating here from token sales and invest that into their product and do a more polished product. So, upgrade their website or their server or whatever they got to do. I don't care. It's not my business, man. But with that being said, you can calculate your stake right now. And also, I'm expecting it to be about 2 months in before we start seeing returns. So I'm not expecting to see returns until May at the earliest. Probably June. It's got to get up and running and generating revenue before we can get returns. It's that simple. I do know that they're getting closer and closer every day to being able to launch the actual lottery, so I'm very excited for that. Mainly because that's going to start kicking off when revenue is generated and when we can start seeing returns. And of course, I will also be very excited to see who the first winner is going to be. I think that's going to be really, really cool, and I can't wait to see it. But with the best guess of 2 months from today when you buy your tokens and when we start actually seeing returns, at 1 million tokens per day, approximately, if it stays at that rate, you're looking at about 60 million tokens probably for the first return. Again, educated guesses, guys. Could be way off, could be way less, could be way more. Who knows? It's crazy. So there's 2 ways to do it. You can try and guess how many tokens are going to be there, or you can look at the absolute worst case scenario, and we do know for a fact that the hard cap is going to be 10 billion. So you could calculate your percent stake based off of 10 billion total supply if you wanted to. And that's going to give you a much smaller stake than what you're actually going to have, which will, obviously give you much, much smaller paper returns. And then you'll be pleasantly surprised when you actually get your returns, and they're much higher than you calculated. So that is one way to do it. I tend to do stuff like that when I'm looking at things. I tend to go absolute worst case scenario when I'm doing my calculations to see if I want to get into this. So that way, if the worst case scenario does get met, I'm not disappointed. I'm not surprised. Like, okay, well, this is kind of what I was banking on anyway. And then if things actually go well I am quite pleasantly surprised, and I have more of a return than I was expecting. A faster ROI, all this, that, and the other. But as you'll see soon in the scenarios, the ROI on these things, if you buy them for a penny a piece, which that price not going to last too long, but I don't think you have to buy today to get that price. I would just be very, very surprised if they were still a penny a piece in 6 months. But if you're buying at a penny a piece, the ROI is pretty damn quick for this particular token. ROI is return on investment for those who are absolutely brand new to all of this. So how do you calculate your percent of stake? If you haven't been reading ahead, obviously I'm not just going to sit here and follow this little thing that I wrote out. I don't like reading off a script. It's not my thing. It's actually a very simple formula. Your total tokens that you have versus the total tokens that are out there, right? So you're going to divide your total tokens by how many tokens are out there, the total supply, and then you're going to take that number and times it by 100, and that'll give you a percentage. After that, all you do is calculate the total sent into the reward pool by your percentage, whatever that is for you, and that's how much you'll get. So if you were entirely accurate on the total number of tokens that were out there at the time this calculation is made by the system, and with how much revenue was going to be generated, you would be exactly correct in your estimations. Now, the chances of that happening, if you do that, go buy a damn Coin.lotto ticket like immediately with that first little bit of return that you get. Buy a few of them because you are one lucky bastard. Anyway, moving on. Let's see here. Right, so that's your personal stake. I kind of got lost for a minute, thinking about lucky people, because I'm not one of them. I'm not very lucky. I just rely on being able to do math and stuff like that to calculate everything that I possibly can beforehand. So that is your personal stake. That's how you get that, and then you just multiply it by the amount of revenue. That's step 3. Is if $10 million gets sent into the reward pool, you can take 10 million times whatever your percent is, and boom, that's your reward, your dividends. So again, I suggest being conservative in revenue generated and generous in total token estimation. So if you're figuring on 1 million tokens per day, maybe, do your calculations based on 2 million tokens per day. So instead of 60 million total, when you're doing your calculations, 120 million total. This will give you a smaller number in paper, but when it actually comes time for the reward, might be a much bigger number than you were expecting. So I'd rather be pleasantly surprised rather than do it the other way around and you underestimate how many tokens there are out there and overestimate your stake. And you're expecting a higher number and you don't get quite as much, and then you feel a little bit ripped off. I'm always a little mad when I'm expecting to make $1,000 on a deal and I only get $600, until I go back and I look at it and see where I fucked up on the math. So I would much rather be expecting $1,000 and end up getting, $1,400. Pleasantly surprised that way. But hey, that's just me, So let's get into some example scenarios here. I did three quick scenarios. Keep in mind, these are numbers I just totally pulled out of my tuchus. So they're not really relevant. I don't, probably not to anybody who's watching this video, but hey, maybe I happen to pick one of the numbers that you personally bought. I don't know. One thing to note, for all 3 of these scenarios, I assumed 60 million WGT tokens. Again, I said to be conservative in the token estimation. So that's 1 million per day times 60 days. That's 2 months. But I am expecting a drop off in token sales. Hopefully as more people are making videos, there will be more interest. But what tends to happen on cryptocurrency sales is the first few days, when a coin starts popping up, especially the first day. There's a lot of interest, a lot of buying, some selling, a lot more buying. And then interest kind of takes off, kind of drops off a little bit over time. So I'm expecting to see a little bit of a drop off there. Personally, I'm expecting around 45 million in total tokens out there in the node reward system on the first distribution. That's my personal guess. So I went ahead and rounded that up to 60 million in case there is no drop off. Just in case, why not? These are just fun scenarios anyway. But anyway, that's how I got 60 million total WGT for these little play scenarios. So scenario 1 is 100,000 WGT and $20 million in total revenue. So this would represent a $1,000 investment right now because they're a penny a piece, remember? So it's going to cost you $1,000 to get 100,000 of these things. So keep that in mind. And as far as the total revenue generated, that's very conservative. However, this is a brand new project, so it's not going to quite have reached critical mass where everybody knows what it is. This is the very first month that it's generating revenue. So it's entirely possible that it'll be a very low revenue month for this project. Also, the first month is only going to be Coin.lotto. I don't think the casino is going to be up and running in that first month just yet. I'd be very impressed with that if that was the case. But, I'm assuming just Coin.lotto for the first month, at least. And brand new project. It's a brand new lottery. I'm not expecting a whole ton of ticket sales for this first month, but, hey, maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. So it's entirely within the realm of possibility that it generates $20 million or maybe even less, but that's okay. And you'll see why. So 100,000 tokens represents a 0.16% stake. So $20 million in revenue equals $2 million into the reward pool. 0.16% stake is $3,333.33 repeating. So even the very conservative, or if it's even less, if it's even half of that, you are still at your ROI plus 50%. If it is 20 million, then you're at 3x on your ROI already. Scenario 2, you went a little heavier into the WGT tokens, and you picked up 1 million of those bad boys. So you dropped 10 grand, high rolling. And this is more of like a projected profit or revenue of $100 million. This is a pretty good case scenario for a first month. I mean, it's a lottery, so it could go higher. It could go gangbusters. People could go nuts for this. I'm not expecting 100 million in the first month, but let's just say it did. 1 million tokens equals 4.14% stake and $10 million into the reward pool. So the monthly reward in that case would be $166,666.60 repeating, or 66 cents repeating. So if this happens and you initially drop $10,000 into this, you're pretty fucking happy at this point. You can't ask for a better return than that. Keep in mind, very low probability that A, you bought that many, or B, it does that well in the very first month that it is up and running. But I did kind of want to do like you went big and so did Coin.lotto. I said, fuck it, let's do 1 million tokens and $100 million in sales. Why not? Wow, that would be nice, huh? So scenario 3, there's a $25,000 minimum WGT to run a node and thus be eligible for rewards. So I wanted to do a scenario where somebody just went ahead and dropped $250 to pick up a node, a very small node, and maybe the Coin.lotto does somewhere in between 20 million and 100 million. I pegged it at, $50 million in revenue. So 25,000 tokens equals a 0.04% stake. I know what you're thinking, like, damn. The first one was like 0.16, and then the second one was 4.14. 0.04 doesn't sound like a whole lot. Well, you didn't invest a whole lot, but you've already gotten a pretty good ROI on that. Now keep in mind, this is, probably an average of what could be expected in the first month or two of revenue is $50 million in revenue. And so for a small initial investment, that's pretty darn good. That's a pretty good return right there. Now, I do, my brain started cooking on all those number crunching and stuff, and so I have already thought of quite a few different little strategies that you could use with this, because that's just what I do, because I'm a nerd. And I am planning on rolling out like a little sample strategies video. But, I will say this. What I'm going to be doing is if I get, like my ROI times 4 or times 5 on the first month, definitely what I'm going to do is I'm going to take double my initial investment, take $10,000 or so, and put that back in my bank account. Because now I'm not only safe, but I've doubled my money and I'm firmly in the profit. After that, I'm probably just going to buy some more WGT tokens to try. I may or may not, you may or may not be able to increase your stake in it, probably because people getting these rewards are going to be very happy, and it's probably not going to be uncommon for those who already hold a node to buy more tokens with their reward. But you definitely want to try and maintain your percent of the stake there, as much as you can. Now, if you're just rolling with a 25,000 token, that's that's the minimum node. So your percent stake may go down, but keep in mind that the hype behind it, might get more revenue the next month. So even if your stake goes down, the more revenue the company brings in, which will increase over time, could mean bigger rewards for you, even if you have, maybe you started with a 0.1% stake and you fell down to like a 0.07. But the company did twice as much revenue as it did the month before. You're still going to get more money for that month. But what everyone does with their dividends and with their earnings, that's your business. That's none of my business. I don't really care what you do. I'm not a financial advisor, so I just like running these scenarios. But I can tell you what I'm going to be doing. Definitely take out double my initial investment, so it's safe. It's a safely profitable trade already, right? And then I'm going to buy more tokens to try and, if I can, increase my stake there. Do everything that I can to make sure that happens. So that's what I'm personally going to be doing. Some people might do like a 50-50 pocket reinvest. Some people might do a 10% reinvest. Some people might do a 25. It's up to you. It really is. It's your money. So if I were you and you're looking at this, I would also be thinking about the strategy moving forward. So hey, if you just want to invest one time, so you drop $1,000 in there and then just 100% of your earnings go back into your pocket, that's your fucking business, dude. Do you. But if you want to try and increase your position a little bit, you might want to start thinking about a possible reinvest strategy. The cool thing about the way that they're doing rewards. Oh, I forgot to mention this. If you don't want to do all this crazy math up here to figure out what your stake is going to be, maybe you're just a little bit more passive about it and you don't, care what your month-to-month returns are as long as you're making a profit. There's a much easier way to do this. So the way that they pay out the monthly rewards is you're going to get half of your rewards as a lump sum at the end of the month. And the other half of your rewards are going to be split up into 4 equal weekly payments. Okay, so what that means in essence is you're going to get 12.5% of your monthly reward the first week, 12.5 the second week, 12.5 third week, 12.5 fourth week, and then boom, you'll get just a big lump of 50%. So if you do want to do a 50-50 reinvestment strategy, maybe one way to do it would be take your weekly rewards and buy more tokens, put them back into your node. So you're increasing your node throughout the month. And then your big 50% lump sum, that goes back into your pocket. To me, that's an easy way to do it. If that is your strategy, if you're going to do a 50-50, it's up to you. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed running down the rabbit hole of numbers and different scenarios and this, that, and the other. Because this is what I like to do, is I like to plan stuff out. It's the whole reason I created my channels, because I saw a whole lot of people getting into these different lending platforms, and they didn't really have much of a strategy. I'm a strategist. I love to think different plans, different scenarios, crunch numbers. I don't know. I'm weird. I'm a nerd. A few of you seem to like me anyway, so thank you for that. And stay tuned, guys. There's a lot more information being put out by the team behind it. And I do know that they are doing their beta testing on the lottery now. So the lottery should be opening up soon. I'm hoping that it opens within the next 30 days so we can start getting some returns approximately 30 days after it opens. But stay tuned. Coin.lotto itself has a YouTube channel. They do have telegrams you can get on there. I'll be sure to link the YouTube and the Telegram and stuff in the description of this video for those of you who aren't in the know about it, so you can stay tuned for announcements, or just keep watching my videos, and I'm sure I'll announce things when they are announced, and also when I have a little bit of time. But if you want to be a little more up to date, I'll be honest with you, stay-at-home dad, 2 crazy kids, and I'm going to school full time, so life is a little crazy for me at the moment. And I can't promise that I'll be able to put the information out as quickly as possible, but eventually I'll get it out there. I'm going to want to do this particular video for a couple of weeks, but hey, it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. Anyway, enjoy the rest of what's today, Thursday? Yeah, enjoy the rest of your Thursday, guys. Jar head out.